You're listening to Overdoing It, the Rhode Island Library Podcast.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Overdoing It, where our team of library workers dish about their latest reads, views, and passions alongside fascinating conversations with local luminaries. And we'll just have everybody introduce themselves. So I'm Emily Goodman. I'm the Adult Services Coordinator at the Office of Library and Information Services and also a host here at Overdoing It.
And I'm Lauren Walker, Director of the Coventry Public Library, also a host here on Overdoing It. And today, our special guest is Chris Revill from the Hey Rhody podcast. Chris, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, thank you. Special guest. Oh, feels so nice. Am I your first Rhody Radio repeat guest for Overdoing It?
We've been doing a few, what are we calling them? Item renewals.
Mm-hmm.
That is so clever.
Past episodes back, reintroducing, like talking to them about what they're doing now, and then re-airing their old episodes.
That's so smart.
Our other episodes.
I know. I have to say, I just love your love of puns. Like I must have heard the Overdoing It name about 6 or 7 times before I put it together. I was like, oh, because it's a library.
You used to have a line about it that it's overdoing it, overdo like all the library books in our home. ING it.
Yeah, it's more of a visual pun. So if you're only hearing it, you don't quite get the full effect.
It's great. Thank you so much for having me. We're so excited. And I have to say that we all know each other in real life too, which is always even more fun. But we're all like job people, so we have jobs, and it's like morning time, so we have to do it on a computer. But one day we'll all be in the same room again.
Yeah.
Yes. Workplace proximity. I think that's a Parks and Rec reference. I'm not even sure what I'm referencing.
I remember one time we were at the Fun Bearable some show at the Comedy Connection, and you dropped that Parks and Rec line, and like I was like, "This is why we're friends." It's like I'm pretty sure it's Parks and Rec. I assume
it
it's
probably
Parks and Rec.
is.
Yeah.
That's my show that I'm constantly watching. So sometimes I quote it without even realizing it. Now I think it's original thoughts, and it's just references.
So my one of your past guests happens to be my wife. And in our wedding vows, she used the "I like you and I love you" from Parks and Rec.
I love that.
In a small world, we've had your husband on Hey Rhody podcast.
Yes, and I think we had your wife on.
Yeah, you had my wife
on,
on.
Yes,
recently, but I think we invited you on to come on with your husband. But I think we were recorded like 9 o'clock in the morning. It was like it was right when the Hey Rhody podcast. I guess you would call it return, because the Hey Rhody podcast, for anyone who doesn't know, it existed for about 80 plus episodes with the old hosts Nick and Sasha, and they did wonderfuls before my time at Hey Rhody. And then Sasha had left her position, and then she went to go start Honey Bun Social, which is with Laura from Buns and Bites. And then I don't know how many months later, but when I ended up getting hired here I'm an account manager, but I ended up being like, hey, y'all bring that podcast back? And then they were super nice to hand it over to me. The way I like to think of it as like the Tonight Show, where it's like, it's not my podcast. I'm the host of the podcast. It was Nick and Sasha. Now it's me and Jenna. One day it will be, hopefully never will leave, but if hopefully the next, we hand it over to the next people from there on. And it's fun because I came from doing my own podcast, which was completely independent, all by myself, which is awesome and horrible in a lot of different ways. I don't know. I enjoy having a partner, and also I'm sure you both have that too, like with Overdoing It, where it's like, there's probably a lot of people you want to have on, but it's like, can't just have anyone you want on because it has to fit the mold, and there's other people involved, and there's people you have to answer to. And it's I had to say it's been a really great lesson in learning how to host a lot better, because when I picked my own guests, I would just pick people I wanted to talk to, and now I obviously want to talk to you. But now there's times I'll have to have people on that aren't up my personal knowledge of Allie, but like they still fit the show, and they end up being great, but it makes you work harder.
Yeah.
Which is not what I ever want to do. Very Tom Haverford.
Well, thank you for joining us for this special Hey Rhody Overdoing It crossover episode. And a little bit later in the show, we will talk to Chris about the Hey Rhody podcast. But before we get to that, let's start out, as we always do, with what have you been reading and watching?
Oh, wow. Let's see. Actually, I have it in front of me. It's actually a Taylor Swift book. It's called Heartbreak is the National Anthem. My wife got it for Christmas, but it's I think it's a Rolling Stone writer. Like I think it's I can't see that far. I think it's Rob something Rob Sheffield I want to say, but he's a writer I've liked because of the old my old, the old days in Twitter for a long time. He's more of like a rock guy, so I just saw that he wrote a Taylor Swift book. I was like, huh, and it's really good. And that's very rare that I'm not a big reader. Sorry, librarians.
We have more than just books, so that's
Yes,
fine.
but on the watching front, has been really fun. Is part of the way I've been protecting my peace and keeping my energy. Is I've been trying to make it a rule to myself of trying not to watch anything that was made before 2001, and like kind of have like a part of the night of time travel. I've broken it. I've definitely stayed in like this window of like 15 years pre 2001. So recently, I've been rewatching 30 Rock. I just watched Point Break again. I just watched Legally Blonde for the first time.
Nice.
Scrubs, like kind of that era.
I need to interrupt you really quickly because it just dawned on me what you said after Lauren said nice. Legally Blonde for the first time?
Yeah, it's one of those things I just missed. I'm not a great movie watcher. When did it come out? 01, 02? Like I was probably in high school when it came out. And like, but when it came out, it wasn't like the cult classic comedy that everyone loved. It was, I'm sure I was like a high school boy. I was like, I'm not seeing that rom-com.
Yeah, it wasn't marketed to you.
No.
I also just don't watch any movie. It's not like it wasn't a sexism thing. I'm very ADHD, so sitting down doesn't happen often.
I feel that.
But man, is it good?
So good. See, when it first came, I don't know. I think I'm a little bit younger than you, so I didn't watch it when it first came out. But when I was in high school, I watched it a lot, and I always called it my like guilty pleasure movie because I think because of sexism.
Yeah, that's probably what I thought of it.
I was like, oh, you can't say that you like this silly girly movie about this poppy girl who goes to Harvard, but like on a whim. But the more, like, as I get more of an adult, I appreciate everything that movie has done and how good it is.
And like Victor Garber is in there, Luke Wilson, Jennifer Cool, all these people. My experience, I had that. I was probably in college when it came out. Was Mean Girls. I saw it right when it came out. I loved it. I got made fun of by everyone for like oh, you just like it because like Lindsay Lohan's hot, and I was like, I never understood that mentality. I remember just thinking it was like a classic when it came out and get made fun of for it. And I was like, I was right, because that is now like one of the generational movies that have made it's moved into the next, like my nephew's 11 and him and his friends are like just now discovering it. Like he's my barometer of what culturally continued on from my youth. Like when I go real back young, for him it's like, and his friends at least, it's like Sandlot and Free Willy were really popular with him and his elementary school friends, which was like movies from my era.
Same. That's cool that they're still watching Free Willy.
Which I didn't remember really liking that movie that much, but I was like, okay, Ben, I remember that one.
Oh, I loved it. It was so inspirational. Anything about animals was my jam when I was a
Homer
kid.
Bound.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I remember Milo and Otis was one I used to like
Yes.
a lot.
I was an Andre child.
Oh, the seal, right?
Oh, Airbud. I may have watched an
Yes.
Airbud somewhere down the line. But yeah, those have been. I've been Scrubs. It's been watching. I'm having such. I don't know about you all, but I'm having such a hard time watching anything new. Like I loved Elementary, but this season has just not been doing it for me. It's just been seems like a lot of comfort stuff recently. Of just like at the end of the day, I just want to zone out. And movies just look different from the. It is a strange feeling when you're watching something that you remember coming out, and it's now retro. But like I remember when this came out, like I was of the age, but it looks so different comparatively. Yeah. Even older movies, like my brother-in-law and I went to see the Muppet movie when they did the re-release, which I've seen a million times, but I never saw it in theaters. It's from like I think 79, and like it was like 6 minutes of the intro just to get through the titles, where like it's just slow. Yeah. I mean, I still love it, but I could see why my 7-year-old is like, turn this off, Dad.
Yeah, we for Valentine's Day, which usually my husband and I are not Valentine's Day people, especially because, well, I personally think it's just like kind of a commercial holiday, but that's always been my take on it. But our actual anniversary is at the beginning of February anyways, so we just kind of skip Valentine's Day. But this year I was sick on our anniversary. So on Valentine's Day, Jane Pickens Theater in Newport was showing Casablanca, and we had never seen it on a big screen. So we went to see it, and it was so cool to see it on a big screen. And like, you think of like film movies as being like lower quality because they're older, but actually film has a better resolution than digital. And so like seeing it on the big screen, like it's so crisp, and it was really cool to watch. And then there were like people who were clapping when it started, and Nate like rolled his eyes, but then at the end he was one of the people clapping when it was over.
I
It
wish
was a
they would
great
do
sense
more
of
of that.
community there.
I love that. I wish because like I like going to the. I'm not a cinephile, but I love going to the movies. But like, man, I if they would, I wish they'd do more re-releases. Like, remember when they did? I went to the 30th anniversary of Jurassic Park, or during the pandemic, a lot of the small theaters, like the Odeum and there, I think they did Spider Verse. But like, we would go. I wouldn't during the pandemic. I was in healthcare at the time. I was at Butler Hospital, so I was one of the. I think I was in like the first 10. We were in the first round of people in the state to get vaccines. So the second I got my first vaccine in 20, I got mine at the end of December of the end of 2020. I was like, I'm going to the movies. I don't care. I'll see anything. And I just went to every possible, but it was all, they were doing a lot of older movie, like re-screenings. And it was so much fun. Like, I
Yeah.
wish they would do more of that. Like, you could rent out a movie theater for like pretty cheap, like for like a few $100. You could rent out like the entire cinema and show whatever you want. I've seen a trend online that I kind of want to do where people rent out a movie theater and then they hook up like their Xbox or their Switches or something and they play video games on the screen. I kind of want to do that, but I was like, oh, I just want to do like some Smash Brothers or Mario Kart.
Or the shoot, what's the car soccer game?
Rocket League.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that would be fun. That would be so much fun. So I have to say I've absolutely been loving overdoing it. I'm an OG fan from the Rhody Radio days. Happy to say that Nathan, my business partner for Let's Chat Podcasting, we're super happy to do some kind of I guess consulting work on them. And
Mm-hmm.
we're so happy. But the thing I had to say that recently made me the most happy, and I could see the handwritten letter behind you, Lauren, is that you had Cynthia on.
Oh, you
Yeah,
can see
I
her
see
little
the logo
logo.
from Advanced
Yeah.
TV History, we did some podcasts together on my old show like 6 or 7 or 8 years ago and have just like stayed in contact little bits here and there. And she's just one of the nicest people who like, I remember meeting, we all online, we never met in real life, but like interviewing Cynthia and be like, oh, you love television as much as I do. And you're like an academic and I don't feel bad for my obsession with this anymore because I'm like a hyper super fan, and it was. But that was a really good episode, and I thought you kept the tone really well. I think we were texting, and you're like, "Yeah, between talking about television and feminism, that it can go in a dark path, but it stayed positive."
It kind of was perfect for a library podcast because I think the amount of memoirs and biographies she reads, it's possible we talked about more books than TV shows actually on the episode. So there was a lot of good like recommendations that she had on different memoirs and biographies of actors, and yeah, it was a great conversation for sure.
I actually tend to read more biography. I don't. I end up basically only read nonfiction, which is the complete opposite. My wife is she's like, what do you? I don't know, like a book person. What do you? Bibliophile. That's what you're all called. And she has like the app where you like to
Either
track
way,
how
that
many you read in
works.
the year. She's really big in the romance novels. I know those are very popular.
Mm-hmm.
We're librarians. I can tell you, I was just in last month for Victoria's birthday. We went to Charleston, South Carolina, and they have a bookstore in Charleston that is a romance themed bookstore that it looks like Taylor Swift threw up all over,
That's awesome.
I'm guessing it's pink.
and just stickers and merch. I've never been into a bookstore, and there's not a single book there that appealed to me because it wasn't for me. I don't mean in a bad way. It just it was. I fell in love with it. The branding of the place was so perfect, and but like I was like, oh my god, this is awesome. I wish I read romance. I wish I read
Those
romance
are
novels.
popping up across the country a bit more. I think the first one might have been in Portland, Oregon, or something like on the West Coast.
Yeah,
And slowly they have just been like popping up all over the place. So the one that's in Portland has a second location in New York City now. I'm pretty sure there's one in Texas, one in California. Um, a colleague of mine just went to the middle of the country. I can't remember what state she was in like a Nebraska.
There's corn there.
Yeah. Very sorry for any of our listeners who probably don't exist who are in the middle of the country that we just lump you all together. But she went to one of there as well. So I'm as a romance reader as well, and I'm obsessed with it. I love it so
actually, I'd love to ask you both of you because I mean, as you both know, love libraries, but I think there's for whatever reason there's still this like misconception to people that all you can get from libraries is book. As a non-reader who is at the library literally once a week, like I work out at the Warwick Library every Tuesday with my friend Emma, and like I mean, like you could take out like an iPad. Sometimes they have tools. I mean, the thing I tell my friends with kids is like, get your video games from the library. Stop spending $60 on the game. Get it from the library for free because video stores are gone. And then like, if they like it, you can just go buy it. But like, I get all my video games from the library. I get video games. I've actually gotten like I have a DVD player again because I was getting sick of buying crap off Amazon. I just got to the point in my life where I was like, you know what? I've had to rent Spaceballs so many times. Like, I just need to have that, and I need to have certain movies and TV shows. There's probably like 10 or 20 I just have to have with me all the time. But I just started getting them from the library. And then every time I'm there, there's always programming going on. My daughter actually reads to the service dogs at the library in Warwick on Tuesday. She's going to be on PBS, actually. I'm really excited for her.
That's so exciting.
So my quick backup, I worked in mental health for over a decade. So I worked in community mental health. So I was like a case manager. So a lot of times I would meet with clients. There's never a budget. A lot of times you're meeting with people with no money. In the library, and like the mall, but the library was the one place we can go. I can meet anyone, no expectation of spending a dime. And there's so much, but because of that, I worked all over the state. I've been to a high percentage of the libraries in Rhode Island. Gotta say, they're really nice. They're all nice, but there's some exceptionally nice ones. And it's wild the amount of like 3D printers, DJ equipment, maker stuff. It's insane. Podcast studios.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. So can you like kind of tell us a little bit about all the amazing things your libraries offer?
Well, I feel like you just did.
I did it for you. I do it for
I
you.
was just gonna say that.
Books, movies, video games, fishing poles, cake pans, ghost hunting equipment, some amount of power, not like power tools. You're probably not going to get like a circular saw, but you may get a small cutter, some projectors. Lauren, I feel like you have the biggest collection of video games, or one of the biggest video game collections, but you've also got a pretty good collection of things.
Yeah, we have aside from what you named, because we did get a drill, so we have like a power drill that you can borrow, which is super handy if you like, have one project to do at your house. You don't want to buy it or like pay to rent it. And we have a pop-up tent. We have some lawn games, which are very popular in the summer. So we have like a giant Connect 4 that you can
Wait, seriously?
borrow. Yeah. And so you can set it up and you can play. It's like I think like 4 feet wide or something. So we have like bocce. There's a whole collection of lawn games. And yeah, we have our teen librarian, Kylie, is the one who selects for our video game collection. And she does a great job. She has a little suggestion pad in the teen area. So a lot of the video games that we get are actually requested by the teens in Coventry. So it's good that we're able to gauge what they're actually looking to borrow. And
for things that you don't take home, right? A lot of libraries also have meeting rooms that you can book,
Yeah.
study, or larger spaces if you have a community group that needs to meet. They've got computers and printers and fax machines and scanners and all kinds of equipment that maybe you don't have in your house, and those things come with a nominal fee just for upkeep for the library's, bills, but they're not trying to make money off of them. So rather than doing your major printing at like, Staples or FedEx or wherever else, not to say that those don't have their place, but really accessible at libraries as well. Some libraries have some stations where you can watch movies, DVDs, and things like that if you don't have that at your home. Yeah. And like you said, programming, right? A lot of the libraries host at some point in the year their local schools art shows. So you can go see what the kids have been creating throughout the year, learn about all kinds of different things, get some technology help, whether it's a classroom setting or one-on-one from a librarian, English as a second language. All kinds of things are happening in our libraries throughout the state to help people connect, access materials, access information, learn skills, and get support in your everyday needs. And if a library doesn't have it, they're willing to help you find out who
Absolutely.
does to help you.
And one thing, my daughter, she's about to be 8, but she actually she crawled for the first time at story time at the Providence Public Library because she saw a toy she wanted. But like that, I'm wondering if that's a cycle you see where like you get a lot of kids and teenagers and maybe people kind of disappear for a while and then they reappear. Like I really, for myself, once I learned I can get DVDs, it was actually that's how it first started. But once my daughter was born, like the library is probably the only free place I could take her in the
Mhm.
wintertime. Like it's the only thing I could do with her that doesn't involve like going to like a trampoline park for like $100 or something.
Mhm.
So it became big library people, but it became like a real like third place. It's become like a real third place for our family, and especially when she was younger. Like then my mother-in-law, so she had moved here from New Jersey. My in-laws moved here from New Jersey when my daughter was born, and then she would take her to the story time, and then she became friends with some of the other grandmas and moms, and then like all of a sudden like the people are at our house like, oh hey Missy Ann, like stuff like it was nice. Like it also focuses a community, and it just to me it's just so interesting of all the stuff libraries offer. And I feel like sometimes I'll have those conversations with people and they're like, seriously? I'm like, I know.
Yes. But what's frustrating is when you have that conversation with your friends a million times and they still don't have a
Mhm.
library card. And
Just get
you
one.
know who you are if you're listening. And also it's just there's no reason not to have one. Like you can sign up on your phone, you can get things for free. Like you said, Chris, with ending up renting things on Amazon because somehow when I'm subscribed to like 4 different streaming services, the one movie that I'm looking for is not available for free. But if I can like push down that craving for that movie just a little bit, I'll just order it from the library, pick it up the next, especially if they have it at the library where I work, I'll just pick it up the
Yeah.
next day and watch it tomorrow. So
You know what else I think, outside of materials that you can borrow for free, which I think like 100%, but it's also a nice place if you just need to kill a little bit of time. Like if you're between appointments or like if you're a parent and your kid has an after school event and you have to wait to pick them up or whatever it is, right? Like you can just walk in and sit down, like you're saying, as a third space for free. There's comfortable seating in a lot of libraries. There's newspapers and things you can look at, or you can just literally sit there. Nobody's gonna really ask you any questions. They're gonna leave you alone. They're not gonna try to pressure you to do anything. I think you just get up and walk away when you're done. And I've done that a lot. I like to when I'm traveling. I like to just walk into libraries and see what they're doing because for me, it's a professional interest and a personal
Of
interest.
course.
But
Yeah.
it's pretty incredible. Oh, also a lot of libraries are putting out puzzles if you're a puzzle person. Again, if you just need to go kill some time, you can just go sit, work on a communal puzzle, and then leave.
yeah, we have coloring pages
I
too
love that.
for adults or for teens or kids, of course. But yeah, it's especially with the new development of a certain coffee chain not wanting you to sit there. Come on over to the library. You can sit at the library
I used to
anytime.
work at that coffee chain, and yes, I've so my job at Hey Rhody and when I was in community health, very similar. Where I'm not office based, I'm on the road all day, and a lot of times I need to duck in and get Wi-Fi somewhere. And libraries are the place I go to all of them in the state. I'm mostly based in Providence now, so I tend to be at the Providence library system quite a lot. Actually, I do have to shout out Providence Public Library. They have a podcast as well, which I love. The library systems such as yourself having podcasts. But have you been to CHOP yet?
I did.
Oh
I went
my god.
there. I went to PPL for a tour of their library the other day because I had never been there before. And they gave me the hot tip that there was a discount after a certain time on the pastries. So
Ooh.
afterwards, we went into Chop and got some coffee and half price pastries. And it's great. The vibe in there is so cool. Like,
Shout out, we interviewed them.
Did you have Josh on? Yeah.
You want to learn a little bit more before you go? You can listen to our episode.
Yeah, it was a good one. I really nice. And the thing about it is like besides the fact it's in a library, besides the fact that the food is just absolutely to die for and like a fantastic restaurant, the fact that all that is like workforce development for people for their Genesis Center is just like warms your heart even more. But like Jenna, who couldn't make it today, and her and I go there. We're there frequently together, and like we go there, work, eat, get coffee, and right before we're about to leave to go home, hold on, and it's put us in the Providence. It's put me in the library like more than I would because I'm not planning on going there. I'm like, well, I'm already here. Let me go see what they have, and it's put me in the library more. And I just love that creativity of like, of course there should be a restaurant in the library.
Yeah, that kind of leads into a question that we had for you, which is, I know that with your podcast, you've gone to a lot of small businesses, new restaurants, nonprofits. You've talked to a lot of different people. What are some of the favorite things that you've learned about from your experience doing the Hey Rhody podcast?
It's so interesting how much stuff goes on in this teeny tiny little state, and it's not all just Providence, Newport, Westerly. Like there's a lot of stuff happening in like the northern Rhode Island or eastern Rhode Island. Like I had to think the direction for a minute. So I think that thing has been really really interesting to see the amount of creativity, the amount of connections that come through Rhode Island, the amount of creativity. I think the biggest thing is that everyone's always like, it's Rhode Island, everyone knows each other, but that's like 100% not true at all. Our mutual friend Anderson, who he always says is Rhode Island is like cheers if you try, and it can be, but it takes work. It feels like there's just lots of different like silos of different communities, cultures, and groups within Rhode Island, and you just need like that one connector to make it happen. And once you do, it's like it's wild. So yeah, I think it's been really interesting just learning about the amount of like entrepreneurship, the amount of creativity, but like for the most part, like Rhode Island is truly a state of just small businesses. So I think that's been like really, it's both inspiring and like just very interesting to see like the stuff that happens here and that's not happening anywhere else, or the opportunities people get because of the close proximity of like that. So it's been really fun. I think it's been really interesting to see the places it has taken us, because a lot of times I'm not sure if you run into this, but sometimes like you do the podcast, it's great, and then like if it's a restaurant owner, it'd be like, hey, come by sometime and then we'll dinner's on us or something. Or perfect example, after I'm leaving this, we had the dean and the chef who are from Johnson Wales, who are doing the Johnson Wales Food and Technology Symposium. And because of that, they invited us to come to the symposium. So I'm going to go see Taylor Hanson, I know, of all people, speak at JWU. And just like, it's put me in a lot of moments, which I really love. The like, how did I end up in this room? Like, I'm not going to tell anyone I shouldn't be here, but I'm like, internally, you're like, I don't belong here. I'm curious, do you have that too? Like, you've gotten to interview some really cool people that you maybe never would have talked to in 1,000 years any other way.
I mean, before we answer, I will just say I think you belong there just as much as Taylor Hanson does, at
I'll take
least.
it. I didn't write a hit in the '90s though. But it's catered, so I was like, I'm there. That's why I was like, they're asking if we want to go. I'm like, yeah, yeah. So, and like, I'm trying to like kind of beat around the bush. They're like, yeah, no, there's food. I'm like, sold. I'm like, there's an ice cream making class. I'm like, yeah, I'm there. Whatever you need. If it's like a free meal, I'm totally there. So I think that's been fun too, to also learn about different sectors of the state. Like talk to real estate agents, people who run nonprofits, restaurants, filmmakers. Lauren's husband, fellow podcast folk, which is always, that's actually one of my biggest things that I really wanted to do, bring into it, is like use the our arm of the Hey Rhody podcast. I like to now call it the Hey Rhody verse, between like the magazines and the websites, the newsletters, the podcasts, all the YouTube, all the stuff we have. There's lots of it, and like finding a way to bring in some of the people who might not get into the physical magazine just because there's a limited amount of space, and kind of pulling from a little different sources that maybe our editorial team may not know. It's been really great.
Yeah, I think you kind of, with your Let's Chat podcasting meetups, brought a lot of Rhode Island podcasters together. And for me, like when I first started on Rhody Radio, it was already established. And I was like, recording things in the voice memo of my phone and really scrappily podcasting. And to be able to like go to those meetings and have you be so enthusiastic about libraries and the podcast made me feel more like the other Rhode Island podcasters were my peers, and the people that we're interviewing are our peers, and not like, it made me feel a little bit less like I was recording voice memos in a
I know what you
closet.
mean. Thank you for that.
And it kind of gave me the confidence to be like, no, I should have a better microphone. I
Yeah,
should
invest in yourself.
be able to like, yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
So that was my experience. I don't know about Emily's.
Similarly, I've had like a really interesting journey, and I think Chris, you were saying earlier about like the skills that you feel like podcast has given you. And for me, I've noticed that public speaking has been a lot easier. Like I don't really care what I say in front of a group of people, because weekly, monthly, people are listening to me spat on about like whatever crazy thoughts I have. But I've also been really interested. So I think that there's a million people in Rhode Island that, I mean, there are, right? There's a million people in Rhode Island. Everybody has a story. And I've been really intrigued by all of the different people that we've met along the way. And so I want to connect a few weird dots that podcasting has made for us. So, right, we've met you and done the podcasting meetups. And then you came to Hey Rhody and you were doing some episodes and you interviewed on your podcast the Adventure Broad, who I listened to that episode and I was like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with her. And so we brought her on to Overdoing It and I chatted with her and she's such a gem. And after our episode, she was like, hey, you should check out these other people. Here are a few like cool groups to get involved with. And so through that, I learned about the Pachakacha PVD that happens every month in Providence around the city. It's been running for like 20 years. That might not be right, 15 to 20 years. They're the second longest running Pachakacha event worldwide, second only to the one that started in Japan that kicked it all off. And so I interviewed that team. I don't think we've produced that episode yet, but that's
Was it Chris and Cherie?
yeah. Yep. And then I went to one of their events and I was like, oh, we got to get. So I, through our office, work on another project, Reading Across Rhode Island, where we pick one book for the whole state to read and engage with all year long. And I was like, we got to connect with Pachakacha. So now Reading Across Rhode Island is going to be at Pachakacha in May, which is also going to be at the Knight Memorial Library in Providence. And they're also partnering with them independently of us. And so it's really wild. Like you're saying, you think that you know everybody because this is a small state, or like, you know, a lot of people. And then one person turns into one person. And like, all of a sudden I've met all of these incredible people. I've learned about all kinds of things happening in the state. And there's still so much happening that we don't know about. And I'm always just amazed at everything that's going on in the state that's available for people. And you're saying, it's small. And so you can get connected and plug in with things and become a part of something a lot easier, because even though it does have this, I think Rhode Island has a reputation of having an in-crowd feeling, and I think sometimes that is true, and I'm sure that's not just here, but also people want you to be involved in things and are willing to bring you in if you're interested. And so being able to explore all of those things through libraries and through podcasting over the years has been absolutely incredible.
It's so special. We had Chris and Cherie from Pachakacha and Hey Rhody, and in true left form fashion, it turned into Cherie explaining the Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef to me because I didn't know anything about it. And it was one of the best experiences I've ever had in a podcast because I was so enthralled. I'm like, I want to hear everything. But Pachakachas, I know they're so wonderful. Especially, so like my sales territory is Providence, so I would say I know Providence very well, and like I feel like I've part of that community. And every so often, I'll just like get invited or end up at some event that I had never been to. I'm like, for me personally, it's more usually ends up like business stuff. I'm like, I did not know this existed. And there's like 100 people, you know, a third of them. You're like, this is where you guys have all been? What? Like, but yeah, it's cool. And I always joke, and I still even believe this. Like my old podcast, I even say it with Hey Rhody though. Like my old podcast, Let's Chat with Chris Revill, I always joke that like it was like an excuse for an adult play date because like it's hard to make friends at a certain age. But like, where else can you be like, do you want to talk for an hour at 9:30 in the morning on a Wednesday or a Thursday? That it just, you're adults. It just doesn't happen. Like, you know, remember, like if you went to college and you all lived in a dorm, like that feeling was great if you get that experience, and if you don't, but it goes away, or post high school, and like it's work to have friendships and stuff. And for me, like most of my social interactions are now through like work, but now my work is really fun, so it's like the line gets very blurred. So it's like I know I'm working right now, but I would want to just sit and talk to you guys for fun anyway. So it's like this is great. But it is funny how that works. And also, I have to speak to your point of being a public speaking. I have noticed like it has helped me. I've been doing this now for about 12 years, but it has helped me out so much with like social anxiety.
Mhm.
Like if I can now go to an event, not know a single person there, and be like, all right, slip into podcast mode. Not saying it's not easy. I'm not saying you're not anxious. I'm just saying I guess I can work through it better. And like it's made small talk real easy
Mhm.
too. Like I listen a lot more. So it's definitely helped me like guide conversations and experiences a lot better.
Yeah. To your point of starting off podcasting, just wanting to talk to your friends for an hour. Sometimes, I don't know if this happens to you guys, but sometimes I'll be listening to a podcast and I'll have a thought of like, oh, me and my friend should have a podcast. And I'm like, oh, wait, I think I just want to
Yes.
hang out with my friends. I'm like, there's actually no need for us to have an audience for our fun conversations. I just want to have a fun conversation. And sometimes it's hard to make
It
plans with
is.
people. Like everyone's schedules don't line up. So I think part of me is like, maybe I can lock my friends into a scheduled
No, but that's
conversation.
not it's not a bad idea. Like I think that makes total sense. Like my grandparents had like bowling leagues and knitting clubs and all that stuff. Kind of the third places, a lot of those
Yeah.
disappeared. But like we were just did one with our mutual friend Carl Bird from Codex Prime, and him and Victor have been doing it for like a decade. But every Thursday or whatever, I think it might be Tuesday, but every Tuesday they're gonna get together and record. But it's kept their friendship alive because it's like we don't have to do any work. I'm like I'm gonna see Victor this time. My favorite friendships are the ones that are like absolutely no effort. Like Carl Bird, perfect example, dear friend. We have never once made plans to hang out, but we've done multiple podcasts. We run into each other a lot of the same events. Like especially in the warmer weather, we'll run into each other. It's not improbable that I'll see Carl 3 or 4 times in a single month, where I won't see like my best friend of 20 years. I'll see them once a year. They also live far away, but that's adulthood, right? You know.
Yeah. And that's also, I have a book club, and I find that that's like another great thing that libraries provide is offering programs where people can just meet up with other people to discuss something. So, like in our Millennial Book Club, a lot of the people in the book club actually are not Rhode Island natives, and so they moved here from somewhere else and had a hard time making friends, and then they joined the book club, and now we have a monthly, like not mandatory, but it's like a scheduled meeting of friends where we talk about a book and we eat some good food, and then our conversation inevitably delves into like Star Wars and other things. And it's just, yeah, like the book club provides the structure and the scheduling, and then everything else follows. And like you were saying, people used to have more like clubs and bowling leagues and this kind of thing. And I think a lot of people our age have like not done those things and are now finding this like loneliness epidemic and trying to find connection again. And so I feel like, everything with this like podcast community that we have, and also like book clubs and other library programs, have really like provided that for me, and I think a lot of other people too.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. I hope to see more of that. And I grew up in the punk scene, and like I feel like podcasting became that for me, where it replaced that communal sense of like the punk scene. And I moved here, I didn't really know anyone, and it just became this great way to meet so many amazing people. And the types of podcasts too. It's not even like they're all interview types. There's like docu-series. I've gone on podcasts that like I was on a podcast, the JMac Experience recently, and I will say I am definitely the dorkiest white guy he's ever had on that show, because it's a lot more like hip hop culture. And like I shout out John. I love J Mac. He's amazing. I'd love to connect you at some point. I love him to death. But it was like same thing. I was like, I thought I knew everything. And I'm like, oh my God, this is a person who's got their finger on the pulse of a whole nother part of the state and city and culture like I don't know about. Or like there's like the Spark Up podcast, which is like a hip hop podcast, and it's Christina is like an encyclopedia, and like that's not a culture I know as much about. And it's just like we get to interact and play together and hang out sometimes, and it's just like, cool. There's no way we would ever our paths would have crossed if it wasn't for this like dorky. I guess it's well, maybe it's cool now. I hope it's cool, but it probably will never be cool.
And I don't know about Hey Rhody specifically, but I know that at least for my part of overdoing it, part of what I want to see our guests offering, and like I think the people that we've interviewed in a lot of ways or had on as guests are connected to some piece of community, some organization that you can jump into, right? You can attend their events. Pachacachas are free. There's other free events happening around the state. And so
Yeah,
I mean, being libraries, right, being a free third space, are trying to ensure that people have spaces that they can go to. And we want to help promote, yes, some small businesses, you'll see that on our feed, but also these organizations and community events where people can go for free or low cost, because we think it's really important for people to be able to plug in where they feel their niche is, or to try something new, and maybe you'll find a new niche.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad you said especially that free or low cost because and you had hinted to the loneliness epidemic, but I worked in mental health for years, and loneliness is the biggest killer. We're social creatures, and the bad stuff happens when you're alone and isolated. I feel like I'm fortunate where like I'm naturally extroverted. I think I'm pretty good at making friends, but like you got to think about the people who that's just not easy. Like not like I'm married to an introvert, so like I can help pull out of her shell, but if you're single and you're an introvert, the world is set up now where you don't have to know your neighbors. You don't have to leave your house. It's actually effort. Like you actually have to try. But like I grew up in Connecticut, and at least to my memory, there was nothing like Rhode Island. I remember moving to Rhode Island in like 2011. I started visiting 2010 when I met my now wife, and just being like, how are there always a farm? How's there always a farmers market? How is there always a craft fair? How is there the punk rock flea market? And I would like Pachaka. Like, not maybe it did exist, but in my time in Connecticut, I wasn't aware of it. And that is one thing about Rhode Island. For all that we can grumble about, there's always some sort of free activity. Like, so I think that's just something special between like the library systems and like the pachakachas and like Stranger Stories is a really fun free event as well. There's just so
There's so much.
much here. I do have one library question for you. Lauren and I, as being such big fans of Parking and Rec, I have to know: do you have a rivalry with the Parks Department?
We do not. No, we work very well with our Parks and Rec department here in Coventry. So they actually have a new director this past summer. I think he started, and he's also great. And yeah, we collaborate on a lot of events, and they include us in their events. We include them in ours. So no rivalry here. But
Disappointing.
I think that's part of the irony too of Parks and Rec is like the library is such a good thing that that's the joke is like how could someone as nice as Leslie Knope hate the library? It's yeah.
I know. I think that's one of my favorite bits in the whole show. Like, I'm glad, I guess, on the civic level that you all get along, but personally, I was kind of hoping that you had some sort of rivalry. Like,
I'm sorry to disappoint you.
is there no rivalries at all? I guess that's good.
No arch nemesis for me at least. I
Oh,
don't know if
I don't
Emily
think
has an
so.
arch nemesis.
So we like to wrap up our show, Chris, with a section we call the last chapter, where we talk about a library or bookish related question. And for today's, I'm going to do a library and Rhode Island question because there are a lot of authors and creators in Rhode Island and who love Rhode Island. So you can choose a book, show, or movie that is set in Rhode Island in part or in whole, whether it's been filmed here and you've watched it, or it's like the set is in Rhode Island proper. So, do you have a favorite of all the ones? Because there's so many.
I mean, I want to say, I know there's so many that have changed over the years, but Dumb and Dumber might always be my go-to. But like, I love Moonrise Kingdom. I thought that was like excellent. There's a lot of stuff that they film like parts of it in Rhode Island that people don't always realize because like Boston, like another city, whenever and now they film a lot of movies here. I haven't seen Ella McKay because it hasn't come out yet, but I'm gonna assume that's gonna be one of my favorites.
Mm.
What was that Jack Black movie he did? The Polka King, I think it was called.
Was that filmed here?
Yeah,
Oh.
there's a lot of stuff that films here. Like you, oh, okay, I figured it out. This is the one that
Okay.
the Dane Cook Steve Carell movie. Oh my god, what is it called?
Oh.
No, my God, it's a rom com, and the opening sequence takes place on Seven Stars on Broadway, and then the whole movie is filmed in like Jamestown in a house. But it's a rom. Dan in Real Life. There we go.
Real life. I didn't look that that one was filmed.
That's all entirely filmed here. Seven Stars Broadway is the opening scene.
Oh.
A lot of the stuff. My friend Vanessa's house is in it on the east side, and then the rest of it is like at a house in Jamestown. And like it's a really, really good, surprisingly good rom com. And if it was not filmed here, I'd still love it.
That's
I think I saw it not knowing it was filmed here, and I love that movie.
got a good soundtrack too.
Yeah, in terms whatever I know they filmed a lot of movies here. I was there when they filmed one scene of R.I.P.D. because Boston wouldn't let him flip a car, and I was working at the Biltmore at the time, so I would like go out and just talk to the PAs and like, hey, there was no one famous. It was all just crew and like stunt doubles, but like it was cool to see them. And my old apartment is in a Woody Allen movie, which I'm not sure if that's braggable. Probably not because I don't like Woody Allen. I did almost hit him with my car by accident once when he was filming.
Chris's claim to
I
fame,
know.
almost Woody
He
Allen
like
for
backed.
talking.
I was my classic cafe. I was going to work at that, and he was like backing into the road, and they close off the set, and like slam my brakes, and I'm like, I look up, and Woody Allen just looked at me. I was like,
I don't think I would recognize him.
if he wasn't like directing a film, I probably would not have been like, that's Woody Allen, because he just looks like an old guy.
I feel like he'd get the whole Tony Hawk treatment of like, that guy looks like Woody Allen. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
that I would be like, oh my God, that's Woody Allen. I would be like, that guy kind of looks like Woody Allen.
Oh, did any of the if any of the movies your husband worked on were they filmed here, Lauren, or were they all like Knives Out was Massachusetts?
A lot of them were in the Boston area, but obviously
Oh, Good Burger too.
Good Burger 2, of course, was here. Um,
I've become we work with Ed Brady, who's like part of that movie. Like, I was just at their office yesterday looking at. He gave me one of their shirts, and I'm like, I haven't seen it, but I remember your husband telling us really cool stories about being on the set with Cal and everything when we did the podcast.
yeah, it was, I think just the whole state of Rhode Island got really excited for Good Burger 2. I mean, come on.
At least like 20 people I know were extras in it. It's wild, and it's Keenan. Like, which weird. Like, I grew up on all that and Keenan and Kel, but like Good Burger, when it came out, I was the right age for it, but it didn't connect with me then. So this one, I didn't. I only watched parts of it just because it was filmed in Rhode Island. That was like the only thing.
I definitely saw it, but I was more of a Keenan and Kel
Yeah,
fan
yeah, yeah.
than a like specifically Good Burger
Same.
fan. But yeah, very 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 cool. I think personally, I really like the Gilded Age series because I used to work at the mansion, so I like to see them and be like, oh, I know where that is. Oh, that's the Elms Kitchen. And same thing with the Great Gatsby with Robert Redford. For the same exact reason, those are probably my favorites.
I have to watch that. I have not watched that one yet.
How about you, Emily?
Yeah. So I want to shout out two. The first being, so growing up in small town, Little Compton, Rhode Island, there's a local author. Her name is Janet Taylor Lyle, written a handful of like quite quite well known medal winning or like award winning young adult historical fiction novels. One being The Art of Keeping Cool, which I'm not sure that I ever read, but everybody I know as a kid read it, and I read some of her other books. And I remember growing up just being like, of course, everybody knows the world famous author Janet Taylor Lyle, and then like nobody really knew who she was.
I've definitely heard of that book before. I'm not sure if I read it either,
Okay,
but
cool.
I would have thought that that was just like a generally famous
Yeah, I
book.
was like, of course you know who that is, and people were like, I don't know who that is. And so she's incredible. She's a wonderful person, and so I just want to give her a quick shout out as like a local author. But more recently, I read The Wedding People by Alison Esbach, and she's also a local author. It's set in Newport. And so the premise for anybody who doesn't know is this woman goes to a Newport hotel somewhat on a whim for a vacation, and turns out she's the only person who's staying there that is not part of a wedding party. And the bride had specifically set all the rooms aside for her wedding party. And so it's this interplay between her relationship with the bride and the rest of the family as she gets to know them. But the bride and all of her bridesmaids and friends grew up in the area, so they went to St. Phil's in Portsmouth, and they do a lot of like reminiscing of their high school years and like going to hot spots in the island. And I went to high school in Portsmouth, and so for me it was just like, oh yeah, I know all about that. Oh, I know all about that. And so I thought that was a lot of fun, but it was also, I think if you didn't know the area, it doesn't feel like name droppy the way that
Hmm.
some can, just to like prove that they're setting it in a place. This one felt really authentic, and like you might get to know these places, and then if you're not from the area, you can go and see those locations that they talk about. And it was also just an absolutely beautiful book. I loved it so much. So that would be probably my current favorite.
That's awesome. I know that's a super popular book, but I did not
Mhm.
know that it took place in Rhode Island or any of that. So now I definitely want to add it to my list, even though
I know I was nervous. I don't tend to pick up the very popular books because I often find them overhyped. But this one, I didn't feel like this one was. I really enjoyed it.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I worry about the very popular books as well, but it sounds like this one has been vouched for by the Emily Goodman. So
By me.
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you all so much for doing this.
And thank you to everyone for listening. Overdoing It is proud to be a resident partner of the Rhode Island Center for the Book and brought to you by library staff and community members all around the Ocean State. The project has been funded in part by the Rhode Island Office of Library and Information Services.
If you'd like to share your answer to the last chapter question, send us an email at overdoingitpod@gmail.com or find us on Instagram at overdoingit. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review us to help us reach more Rhode Islanders.
Thank you again for listening, and this has been another episode of Overdoing It, the Rhode Island Library Podcast. We're overdoing it, but you're doing just fine.
I think with Hey Rhody, I would say ours is Rhode Island Monthly, but Rhode Island Monthly doesn't know that.
Should we cut that out of this episode?
No, I can totally stay.